Back from Florida. Here we go. It is time to talk again here in the great Summit City about the Indiana Pacers, the Indiana Fever, the Fort Wayne TinCaps, and more. Welcome to the Sports Rush, your midweek edition. I am Brett Rump. Hey, before we get any further, could you do me a favor and click over and make a little button push on that subscribe button? It would really help us out. We need you to subscribe to the channel. We need you to like, share, and of course, you can always ring the bell, get alerts when we do have shows where we go live. But we would certainly appreciate your support of the channel as we try to get as many videos talking about Indiana and Northeast Indiana sports. Welcome to it. Leave your comments. We'll get to those in a future video. But a lot has come out over the last couple of days as the Indiana Pacers get ready for Summer League action about the Myles Turner situation. Myles Turner, in the middle of negotiations with the Indiana Pacers, apparently got a call from the Milwaukee Bucks. Desperate after losing Brooks Lopez to the Los Angeles Clippers, the Milwaukee Bucks made an offer to Myles Turner. And the speculation from Kevin Pritchard, president of basketball operations for the Pacers, was that Milwaukee presented an offer, said, here's our top offer. This is what we're going to pay you, but only if you take it and don't negotiate it. In other words, don't take it back and use it as leverage against someone else. This is an offer on the table to be accepted, or it gets pulled and we go no further with that offer. And so Myles Turner was presented with an option. He chose to accept the offer. And in the middle of negotiations with the Indiana Pacers, who may have very well matched the offer, and the offer was for a lot more money, I think, than the Indiana Pacers were prepared to pay. But Kevin Pritchard had gotten the green light to go well into the tax threshold, the lower level, not the higher level, but the lower level of the tax threshold, to pay luxury tax to get Myles Turner re-signed, and that was the goal they thought they were heading for. And unfortunately, they had the rug pulled out from under them, and they didn't see it coming. They didn't expect Milwaukee to waive Dame Lillard to make room for Myles Turner. They didn't think that the Milwaukee Bucks had the kind of money available that they were going to be a player for Myles Turner. And so the Pacers got surprised. Myles Turner makes a quick decision, a snap decision, and gives up on negotiating with the Pacers. And I think this tells us a whole lot about Myles Turner and his agent, that they were looking to cash in, period. It wasn't about winning championships. It wasn't about the community attachment that Myles Turner had with Indianapolis. He had Turner's Block, the section where he had kids that were attending Indiana Pacers games. He's been a long-term Pacer, 10 years of his career, one team and one team only, and just comes off a trip to 1 year the Eastern Conference Finals, and the following year an NBA championship series. Now, you can't get much better than that, and along the way, in this past season, they disposed of the Milwaukee Bucks, and so this has become a little bit of a rivalry, and it's kind of interesting that it's Milwaukee that steps up and pays Myles, but it also shows us that Myles Turner wasn't loyal to the franchise, the fans, or the community. Because if you're going to take an offer like that and you're going to be sucked into that negotiating ploy, which is we're not negotiating, we're making an offer, you're either taking it or leaving it, but if you leave it, it doesn't come back on the table. And that tells you what is the driving force in this. It is strictly money. It's not who's going to run an offense that's going to be more suitable for me. Where am I going to be more content, more happy? Where am I going to have a chance to win? Maybe get that elusive ring. He had the opportunity this year, failed during the finals, and yet the Pacers were still going to be loyal to Myles Turner and give him a chance at another run. And I think this Pacers team could still be pretty darn competitive. I don't know if they're a championship team, but they're a pretty darn competitive team, even without Tyrese Halliburton for the entire season. I mean, they won some games without Tyrese Halliburton this year. They've learned to play without him. They've got some of the pieces in place. with if they're healthy, with Nemhard, Matherin. They've got guards. TJ McConnell, of course, can give you about 20 minutes. So they've got people that can play the position for Tyrese Halliburton. They probably can't play it at his level. And the other thing, it disrupts the amount of production you get from your bench. But I didn't think the Pacers, barring health situations and injuries, I didn't think the Pacers were going to be a bad basketball team losing one player. This team was built on depth, it was built on balance, and that's what they were going to bring back. But when you lose two players, some of the chemistry has to be reestablished because now you're going to have a different style. You're going to have players that are more comfortable in different situations than what the Pacers might have gotten comfortable with Tyrese and Myles. And so there'll be some adjustment. But the Pacers have figured out that we have a profile that we'd like to have as our center. And Myles is kind of that blueprint guy that can step outside, hit threes, set the high screen, play a pick and pop game. And I think the Pacers look for that in the center. And yet they also needed to find somebody that could help them become a better rebounding team because rebounds were issues for this Pacers squad. And so they found multiple guys that they think could help them in one area or another. I can't say anybody is a true replacement for Myles Turner, but Myles Turner is replaceable. Just because he has a unique skill set doesn't mean he can't be replaced. You can find somebody that can block shots. You can find somebody that can get more rebounds. You can find somebody that can hit them threes. But does he do everything to the level that Myles did it? Well, Myles had 10 years of experience of doing it and 10 years of being a starter, basically, or at least 9.5. He started, almost 90%, 80 to 90% of the Pacers games that he played in, he started. But I do love the addition of Sam Huff because here's a guy who probably deserved more than what he got in Memphis. He shot 40% from three. He's a pretty strong defender. He was a shot blocker, a guy that would have averaged 2.5, 3 blocks a game if you prorated out to being a starter in the NBA. And that would have been more than what Myles Turner was putting up, averaging just under 2. So I do like the addition of Huff. And the Pacers are still committed to Isaiah Jackson. And it sounds like they're going to do everything they can to make sure he comes back for another year. They have recommitted to James Wiseman. He was on the roster, worked out, got injured, then was off the roster, showed up in Toronto. I'm not exactly sure what that transaction was, but he ended up in Toronto and became a free agent. The Pacers have re-signed James Wiseman to come back off his injury, and then they still have Tony Bradley. So they've got 4 different centers, or expecting to have 4 different centers that will compete for what they're losing in Myles Turner. And again, it's a team built on depth, not on superstars. So, and you can argue and debate all you want about whether Tyrese is a superstar, if Pascal's a superstar. You can go ahead and have that debate amongst yourselves. We're not going to debate it today here on this show, but it's a team that uses balance. Any night, one of the players could be the hot player, could be Nemhard, could be Nesmith, could be Siakam. TJ McConnell, look what he did in the NBA Finals. And so, number of players that can go 20 plus. And I think Sam Huff is one of those guys. You give him, 18, 19, 20 minutes, maybe even more. And I think he could be a 12-8 type of guy, maybe a couple of blocks. You get 12 points, 8 rebounds out of your center. That's enough production for the Pacers. They'll be fine. But I do think the disappointing part of all of this is, once again, Indianapolis feels like they've got a love affair with a player, and it turns out they find out that player's cheating. And when I say that, it's like you find out a spouse would be cheating, where you feel like you're in a two-way relationship, both giving and very loving, and then you find out they don't love me like I love them. In fact, they're off running around with someone else, because that's essentially what happened with Myles Turner. Got an offer from someone else. Hey, come shack up with us here in Milwaukee. But you got to come and do it tonight, because if you don't, I'm not going to be willing to do this again. That was basically the offer from the Milwaukee Bucks. And Myles Turner said, it sounds good to me. Let's go. That's where his loyalty was. And that's not very deep loyalty to the Indiana Pacers. And that's a story we got from Kevin Pritchard. That's a story we got from Rick Carlisle. Both of them spoke to the media. Rick Carlisle was on a podcast. Kevin Pritchard had a impromptu press conference, talked to some media members. So, bottom line is the Pacers will find a way to rebuild without Myles Turner. It's disappointing when you have an anchor of your team, 10-year veteran, that decides he wants to be somewhere else because he likes that paycheck better. It's kind of like the cheating scenario where you run off with someone else because they drive a nicer car. You think that your relationship is deeper than that. And maybe in this relationship, we would have bought the nicer car, because I think the Pacers were willing. I don't know if they would match, but they would have tried to make the offer as appealing as possible if the price was driven up by an outside bidder. And Myles didn't even take that chance. Just said, I'll take it. And that's no loyalty whatsoever. And I saw some of the media members saying Myles doesn't deserve to be booed. Well, when you hurt somebody like that, and this is an emotional separation, because I think there are a lot of fans that really loved having Myles Turner because they felt like it's great to have a guy who's committed to our city, who's committed to our franchise. And this exposed him that his commitment was not nearly as deep as what he wanted you to believe it was. And so that hurts. And there are people that are going to voice that pain through booing. It's going to happen. Yes, the NBA is structured for players to become free agents so they can go out and take the highest offer, but it's how you do it. Like if your team says, we're not going over $22 million a year. Milwaukee comes in and says, we'll give you 27. Now you weigh the two options and you think, boy, will you go more than 22? No, we won't. Then you go take the 27. That's good faith negotiations, okay? And a team had the choice and didn't bend. I think the Pacers, if they would have had that laid on the table and say Milwaukee is offering this, the Pacers would have done something to try to compete, to show that they wanted Myles Turner to stay, because I believe that was their top priority in this offseason. Well, the Indiana Fever have issues right now. And they played two great games against two good teams. And they shut them down defensively. And then they just don't come ready to play when they play somebody that they should beat easily. I mean, come on. The Sparks, the Valkyries, let's go. We think this team is potentially a championship contender. But that's a total pretender that showed up on the court earlier today and lost to the Valkyries 80-61. That is a pretender. And it's primarily a pretender because you've got Aaliyah Boston not looking like a WNBA all-star. And I'll tell you this, if Caitlin Clark actually had the option to trade for Aaliyah Boston for Breanna Stewart and didn't take it, she's crazy. She should never be an executive, because that's no match there. That's like trading water for wine. And Aaliyah Boston, she has her moments, but a lot of what she gets is pretty much set up. She's an average 50 to 60% shooter from around the basket. I mean, she's no Angel Reese. She can actually make buckets down within 3 feet of the basket. She's got that little spin move, can go left or right hand. But she was not good today. Not good. She has to be able to dominate that position. That's where it starts. Dominate at the basket and work from there. And the Fever just never figured out what they had available to them. Valkyries pretty much shut them down, and now the Valkyries have a better record than the Indiana Fever. An expansion team is 10-9, and the Fever now under 500 at 9-10. Now I know they've missed Caitlin Clark for 5 or 6 games, 6 games I think, maybe 7, but that's no excuse. They built some depth. The Dewana Bonner situation took away a veteran presence in the locker room. And right now, somebody needs to get in the faces of these players and say, look, I don't care who the dang opponent is. We come ready to play. We come ready to get in the grill. We have an identity, and we only right now are protecting that identity against really good teams. 80 points, 80 after you held teams like Minnesota and Las Vegas to in the 50s. Terrible performance for the Indiana Fever. And then some of that's on the coach, having the team ready, mentally focused, because I think it's a lot of this is just mental. They're not ready to play because it's not a big game. They're not trying to prove anything. And they come out and collectively go through the motions a little bit, miss some shots. They're just not ready. And that's so frustrating as a fan. You know, you buy a ticket and you're going to go see them play one of the lower level teams, and you're thinking, all right, I guess, it wasn't the game I wanted to see, but they should win this one easily. They got to have a killer instinct. They got to get tougher. And right now they're showing some softness by letting weaker teams beat them. You know the teams they beat? The Liberty, the Aces, the Lynx, and the Sky. And that's the Sky, of course, not a great team, but the Sky, a rivalry, and the Fever have absolutely destroyed them when they've played them. But they've got to be ready to play a little more than they were today. And so now they're under 500, and they're getting ready. They'll be going on their All-Star break here. Of course, that's in Indianapolis, so that will be an exciting weekend. But not good results for the Fever in their game against the Valkyries. And speaking of not good results, right now I'm not sure if the TinCaps are wearing blindfolds at the plate. They are not hitting the baseball. They are not scoring runs like they need to. They're professional baseball players. They got to do their jobs. This isn't about cheering for somebody to participate and give it their best effort. This is about a professional that has been selected to play and receive a paycheck for their performance, and they are not performing. Right now, the TinCaps have scored, 5 runs over 4 games. They scored 2 runs on a 2-run homer. They had a solo shot by Butterworth in a game. They had a home run by Carpathius out of the 4 runs. 5 runs they scored, I think, 3 of them, 4 of them are from home runs. It's just offensively, they've got to start stringing some things together. And they got too many guys that are hitting around 200 to seem to be able to string things together. And it's time to step up. If you get called on in a save situation and it's not been a position you've been in, and they bypass a guy who is absolutely perfect in save situations, Garrett Hawkins has been terrific. Hasn't given up a run since later part of April. And the TinCaps with a 1-run lead on Tuesday night had a chance to go to Hawkins for the 9th, but they go to Cole Poplum. And Poplum is a guy that the Padres organization wants to see as a closer. He's got a dominant fastball, upper 90s, and then a hard-breaking slider that he throws in at about 90. Sounds familiar, right? Tyson Neighbors throws similar type of stuff. But Cole Poplum has not found the slider since he's come back after having the facial fractures. He's not found it. He can't just fire away and snap that slider and know where it's going. It's in the dirt at a wild pitch. He walked a couple of guys, and then it takes one hit, and all of a sudden you go from a 2-1 lead to a 3-2 defeat. And that was the story of the 9th inning. So not a good run right now for the TinCaps. The funny thing about baseball, though, is you truly can just flip a switch sometimes. All it takes is, You barrel up one baseball, and then all of a sudden you just start seeing the ball like it's this big. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow. The promising thing is they'll have Miguel Mendez on the mound, and Mendez has been dominant as a starter. It's Thursday, so the brews will be cold. They'll be less expensive, and so it should be a fun night at the ballpark. I'll be out there. That'll be one of the games I work this week. I'll be working Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'll be out there on the TV side, my TV in Fort Wayne. Also, Kevin Kiermaier is coming to Fort Wayne to make a rare public appearance. It's kind of funny because with him being a baseball player, spends his off seasons in warm weather. I think he still has his home in Florida in the Tampa area, but he spends it in warm weather. And then during the summer, of course, he's playing every day. So you can't have him come and do an appearance during the summer. So you don't get a chance to see him much. And the only time he seems to be in the area is around the holidays for a couple of days. And I don't know if he's been to a Purdue game, huge Purdue fan, but he is coming into town. There'll be bobbleheads for Kevin Kiermaier. He'll be throwing out the first pitch. There's meet and greets, but it should be a lot of fun on Friday night at the ballpark with Kevin Kiermaier, former Bishop Luers product, who will be having a special night as the TinCaps take on Quad Cities. All right, I got to wrap it up. It's been an extended version. I didn't expect it to go over 20 minutes, but here we are. A lot to talk about. And I'd love to get your thoughts and your comments. I always appreciate you. But make sure before you do anything else, you subscribe, you like, you share, and leave your comment, ring the bell. A lot of things to do, but the most important one is we need you as a subscriber to connect to this channel. So if you're watching, please subscribe. It's that simple. I got thousands and thousands and thousands of people that watch videos, and not many have subscribed. I need you to subscribe. It's very important on YouTube to subscribe to a channel. So please do, please. There's no commitment involved. There's no fees. It's not going to cost you anything. It's a totally free channel. So your subscription just is a kind of a vote of confidence. Says, hey, look, I believe in this channel, and it's something that I do want to see when they've got content out there so I can choose to watch or not watch. So help us out and subscribe. All right. Have a great Wednesday night, and we'll talk to you again. Not sure when. I've got TinCaps baseball coming up tomorrow night, and Friday, of course, with Kevin Kiermaier. Might be our live show over the weekend, but keep connected to the channel. And make sure you follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days. That's where I usually post when our live shows are going to be showing up. Thanks again, and make sure you subscribe, like, share, and leave us a comment that we can talk about on our next show.